My name is Dean Page, and I'm a certified life coach. I help my clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. I've also had the opportunity to meet a lot of interesting people. People who have had unique careers, built up businesses, and triumphed through adversity. So one day it dawned on me, why not put the two together? Why not start a show where people can tell their stories of building success and rebuilding from adversity, with the intent purpose to encourage, inspire, and inform others who are working on their goals to fulfill their dreams. Now, if I only knew what to call it. Maybe I should make a list. Wait, that's it. The Dean's List. Kinda has a nice ring to it. So I hope you join my guests and I on this upcoming episode of The Dean's List. Have you ever had a dream that you work really hard on, but yet it seems like no matter what, you just don't quite make it? And then one day, looking back, you realize maybe you need to change your attitude a little bit. So you make the changes that you need, and you are seeing results. The only thing is you're no longer 20 or even 30. Does that mean it's too late? Yeah, I don't think so. And the next story shows that. It's my friend Justin Rando, who literally the night before had just done a segment on WWE Raw in New York. See, sometimes when you make changes, dreams still can come true. Justin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself, Dean?
All right. So you had a quiet day yesterday, I hear?
Yeah, it was a quiet day.
Now, all right.
Really was looking.
You got to tell me what
Yeah.
happened. We got to talk about this.
Oh, well, when you'd asked me to do this podcast, video cast, whatever, um, I was definitely like, yeah, I'm thinking like, when do you want to do it? You said, well, we could set it up for this, whatever. And I said, well, I had Monday Night Raw yesterday, Albany, New York,
Nice.
and close to home. And I said, let's do the podcast Tuesday. And the reason I wanted to do it Tuesday was because once I go to TV, when I have TV, it's like my mind is 110% wrestling. It's all I'm thinking about. And what better way to go into this podcast, which is not just about wrestling, which we discussed that too, but to come off of a night where I'm with WWE, and sometimes it's uneventful and sometimes it's not. Last night was one of those nights where it was not. Um, Turned out to be a great night. I love the fact of doing TV so close to home. For one, I had a lot of people I personally knew in attendance
Oh, wow.
for Monday Night Raw. So that's a big bonus. And of course, everybody always, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, we don't know what we're doing until sometimes 10 minutes before we actually do it.
Wow. Oh,
Um,
wow.
so basically, like I'll explain, is a typical day is we get to the building for one, and we'll go in, check in with talent relations, and head to the locker room, drop off our bags, uh, head down to catering, grab something to eat, like a small light lunch. I'll usually eat light that early uh, when I don't know what I'm doing yet, and go back to the locker room after we eat, change into something comfortable, gym clothes. Usually I'll throw on sweatpants and a hoodie, or a t-shirt and sweatpants. And about 2 o'clock, 2:30, we see the trainer, and they make sure that we're cleared for physical activity. And
Interesting.
once you're cleared, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't realize that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they'll
Huh.
they'll clear us for physical activity, and we'll. So prior to, I'll just back it up real quick. When you do extra work, every 6 months, you have to have a physical and blood work done,
Oh, wow.
so that every time So every 6 months, you have to continuously get that done and keep it updated with WWE for that, for your extra work. So we still have to go to see the trainer
Hmm.
and have a physical done. Take your blood pressure, your heart rate. They'll do a small like movement test. They'll check and see if like everything's moving good. If anything feels tight, just small physical. And once you're cleared for the physical portion of the day, uh, we'll usually go back down to catering. By then maybe grab another like small bite to eat and get a coffee or something. And a lot of guys don't like to drink coffee before we see the trainer because their blood pressure or their heart rate is elevated, and so they won't clear you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll show up and I'll have already usually got a workout in the morning. I'll probably had an energy drink or a cup of coffee or both usually. Um, I'll usually get a coffee or I'll show up to the trainer with a coffee and they'll go, "Oh, aren't you worried about that?" I go, "Nah." Said my blood pressure will probably be about 120 over 70. Sure enough, it's usually always right there. So they're always like, I mean, I keep, myself stress free pretty much. A lot of guys get amped up and they get themselves all worked up for that. And then they end up going in and they end up having issues with passing the, blood pressure part. It's probably the hardest for a lot
Oh, wow.
of guys. Yeah. So after we do that, we head out to the bowl, which is where the ring is and where, the empty arena is. And, you're out there, pretty much find out what's going on for the day, what the schedule looks like for TV. And that's usually when they'll let us know if they're going to use us for anything that night. So when I get that question a lot too, is like people don't realize like what extra work actually means, you know. So we could go there and do nothing for the entire day and night. We could go there and they could decide to use us for a match. Um, they could use us for security. Last night they used me as a medic.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes they use us in anything that they might need. Like it's like acting, I mean, they'll use you for whatever they need that day, and
Okay.
that's why we're there.
Yeah.
Which is great because you just like I said, you never know what you're going to be doing. So once once you find out what you're doing or what you're not doing, usually it's like 5 or 6 o'clock. Doors are getting ready to open. Now we'll go back to the locker room. If we're not doing anything, we'll change. I'll usually put my suit back on, or even my dress pants, my dress shoes, and my button down. Um, if we are doing something, we find out what we're doing. You're either going to get in your gear because you're going to be wrestling, or you're going to go get whatever. It's going to be a medic. You're going to get a medic polo, or if you're security, you're going to get a polo for security, and you'll find out what segment you're in. And what I never realized in live TV, things can change minute to minute. So what you might be doing at that time, what you're told you're doing, may end up being sooner, later, canceled, cut, redone, rewritten. You're doing something else. So it's really kind of cool that you
It's
really
interesting.
and yeah. And so last night, it was great because what they did last night was I was there. So again, I was only 45 minutes from my house in Pittsfield. So one of the other guys who was there with me, he's been there tons of times with me for TV, and his name's Chico Adams. And Chico, which is funny, is he grew up in Lee, Massachusetts, which is about 30 minutes from Pittsfield. And when I moved back to Massachusetts from Florida, he actually moved down, and we had never met.
Yeah.
And people would ask me all the time, do you know Chico Adams? Do you know Chico Adams? I go, oh, I don't know. Everybody asks me that, and I don't know.
No, but I hear
And
about him.
right.
Yeah.
And so the first time I ever met Chico was the first time I ever did extra work at in Worcester. So Chico was there in Worcester with me, and I said, so this is finally the famous Chico Adams I get to finally get everybody ask me about. And I'll tell you what a class act, great guy. That guy was the one that I pretty much modeled everything after. So this guy's been doing extra work every week almost. It seems like I see on his Facebook that he's somewhere for WWE.
Oh wow.
So I was like, this is the guy that, I really want to, you know, follow in his footsteps of doing what he does, because whatever he does is obviously working,
Yeah, good point.
and he's doing it right. So, I really quickly, started really following the lead of whatever Chico did or advice, I'd ask him. And so anyway, besides now, what I'm saying is last night, I actually finally got to work on screen with Chico.
Uh,
So
oh,
it was,
nice.
I want to say 6:30, and him and I are sitting together having dinner, and one of the producers comes up and said, "Justin, Chico, we're going to use you guys in a segment. So it's going to be come meet me down by Gorilla, which Gorilla is where everything takes place. That's like where you go through the curtain. That's where you go out. That's where everything is. So we're like, okay, so we'll go figure out what we're doing. And it was great. We went down. We found out we were working with Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre. So that was really cool. The first time I've worked with either of those two guys. Chico's worked with Drew a couple of times. Um, Myself, I've been lucky enough to get to work with Bobby Lashley a few times, Brock Lesnar, and Ronda Rousey, which that's like a list right there. I
Hello.
couldn't be happier. You know, those are like three names that like I'm going. I can't
Well,
believe I've got to work with these three
not
people.
just wrestling, but MMA too.
Exactly, and
So,
that was the thing is I never was a huge Brock Lesnar fan in his early years,
mhm.
and I started to become more of a Brock Lesnar fan as he got older. And it was funny because when I was doing the extra work, I'm going, there's only a couple people I really, 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 really want to work with, and that I really hope I get the opportunity. And Brock's hard because he's not always there.
Sure.
He has a very limited schedule. And so I got lucky to work with Brock. I got a phone call that said, or was it an email? Can you be in Brooklyn tomorrow for Raw? And I went, so, yeah, I could be in Brooklyn.
Love the advance
So
notice.
yeah, so I show up in Brooklyn and walk into the building, and there's like tons of extras. There was like 30 of us there that day, and they were doing something with Rey Mysterio, his wife Rhea Ripley, and
Hmm.
Dominic.
Yep.
So they were having a big like it was Valentine's Day, so they were doing like a big Valentine's Day thing for them, and that was going to be one segment. And so one of the guys says, one of the producers who's always there, says to us, he goes, "Well, I got good news and bad news. Half of you guys are going to be working with Rhea and Dom and Ray and his wife and having an easy day. And half of you guys are working with Brock Lesnar." And I'm like, man, I want to be working with Brock Lesnar. Please let me be
Yeah.
working with Brock. And so sure enough, I was one of the guys that got to work with Brock, and what an experience that was, man, getting to meet him. Um, Such an awesome guy too. Like
Really not like the
it's
persona.
funny. Yeah, I mean, he's a badass,
Wow.
but at the same time, what a probably the most professional.
Really.
It was like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked it for a better experience. Um, and what was great about that was, so I buy Brock Lesnar seasoning, right? Brock Lesnar has a seasoning, and it's for meats and everything like that. And
Appropriate.
so I've been buying, yeah, and so I've been buying this seasoning for a while. I happen to be segment was all done. You're all done with Brock Lesnar, and he doesn't stay very long. He like gets there right when he's supposed to be there, and he leaves like right after and everything. So he doesn't always stay. But I walk by, and he's sitting on a trunk by himself,
Oh
and
wow.
I'm like, and I'm by myself, and like I don't. One of the things that like I learned from Chico was like you don't be annoying and don't be all that. I've met plenty of famous people and WWE stars and everything. So, I'm not in there like trying to like, become best friends with them and trying to talk to them and everything. But I just was walking by and I just look at him and he's sitting there alone and I go, "Hey Brock, thank you again. And I just want to tell you I buy your seats." And he looks at me and he goes, "Really?" He goes, "No, thank you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. That's great, man. Thank you." And he smiled
Yeah.
and he was just happy about it. And it was like, so like again, you got to know like when it's okay to kind of like just say
Sure.
something that has nothing to do with whatever, and you're just being, polite. And I'm sure there's a part of him that probably likes hearing that because he's probably thinking like, how many people really buy my seats?
Yeah, right, right.
Like, or
Yeah.
so it's kind of one of those things that was really, for me, it was a cool thing, cool experience to work with him.
Well, it's not your
And
typical response either. Hi, Brock. Been a big
no,
fan. Loved you in UFC. Loved you in
yeah,
this. Big fan.
exactly. It's not like,
You know.
yeah, it's not like I was, sitting there saying like I loved him as a wrestler and a UFC fighter and a,
Yeah.
whatever. It was, hey, I like that seasoning you got for your meat there.
It's just cool.
You have the dream, desire, and talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best gyms, personal trainers, and workout programs. What about overcoming the challenges, setbacks, or injuries that are a risk to your incredible potential? I can help you with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.
And it was again the same thing with like getting to work with Rando. He was so nice. Really great to work with her.
Interesting. Another one you don't usually associate being nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never really took her as somebody that would be like, you know, um, rude or anything, but like, I mean, the fact that she was like so nice,
Hmm.
you're just like all smiles, very nice, very like,
That's
just,
great.
I thanked her for getting to work with her, and she was great. She was just like, oh no, thank you so much, and you guys did like what she wanted to be done, like we did, and it came out exactly how she hoped it would come out, and it was a such a privilege to be able to say like, wow, same here, I got to work with Brock Lesnar.
Listening to you, I keep thinking of, I interviewed Mike Hollow, who I know you know. And one of the things he said that kind of just stuck out at me when we were talking, he said he didn't want to just train wrestlers, he was going to train professional wrestlers. And in hearing a lot of what you're saying is, as much as I, loved wrestling for a long time, when you're talking about you arrive there and you're in your suit, you go, you talk to these, you do this, you do that, you know, you get a chance to work with them, you're being very polite and thank them for the opportunity and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like, um, it sounds like there's a lot of professionalism, you know, that's going into what you do. Is that correct? Versus just, yeah, I just go in and I build and
well,
I,
there has to be. I mean,
mhm,
you're trying to say that you're putting yourself on that level. You know, you're putting yourself right there. You're their equal. I mean, obviously not equal, but you know what I mean. Like you're hoping to be, with a job under
mhm,
contract. So you can't go in there and be starstruck and be, there's a little part of you that's going to be that kid,
sure,
but that's in the whole production. It's
mhm,
not with the person. Like there's that part of you that is like, this is absolutely incredible. Um, but as far as when you get to meet these guys and girls, it's kind of like you have to look at yourself as like, I'm just right there with them. Like I'm not going to walk in there at their job
mhm,
and my job and be somebody that's totally like just starstruck and flabbergasted that you're meeting these people, because you can't. And I don't think that they respect you if you do that, because then they're kind of like, get this guy out of here. Like, I'm not going to
mhm.
work with this guy. Give me that guy, you know?
Plus, you have the
Um,
respect factor, though, is what I hear a lot,
right,
or at least that's what
right.
I hear from you talking. And
Yeah.
professionalism, I should say.
Well, and that's it. And that's what the part is like, when I look at like getting to work for Brock Lesnar, like it was all like, thank you. It was, what do you want to do? How are we going to do it? What's the best way to do it? Where have I got to be? Same with Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley was another guy, like just incredible. I can't say enough good things about Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Um, but like well, where do you want to be? And working with Bobby Lashley was one of the first. It was actually the first time I got TV. That was the first time
Oh
I was
wow.
on TV. That was not the first time I was there, but it was the first time I was on. And the segment I was on was called the VIP Lounge, which was with MVP and Omos. And so
You like hanging around
MVP and
little people, don't you?
yeah, so like Omos is huge, man. I'll tell you
I
that much.
think.
He's such a nice. Every time he sees me, he's like, hey brother, how you doing? And he gives me a hug, but the guy has to bend down almost to the floor, you know. But yeah, so they had us as security guards, and we got there, and we got with Bobby, and they said, well, what are we gonna do? And Lashley was like, what do you guys want to do?
Wow.
And it was like, what?
Yeah.
Like we're like, no, like, I mean, what do you want to do? He's like, no. What do you guys want to do? I want to hear what you guys want to do. And it's like, that's incredible, So there's all those aspects, and of course, I get a lot of the time I get questions about like, so who have you met that you've had a bad experience with, or who have you met that wasn't? And I'm like, nobody, man.
Wow.
Like there hasn't been one person, but that goes with the fact that because I don't put myself into a position for them to be
Yep.
annoyed by me or negative to me, or you know what I mean?
And
So I don't put myself in that position.
being the professional.
I have that, and again, it went to with Brock, like being able to say like the thing about the seasoning and ask him about it was easy for me because he was alone. It was the end of the night. He was sitting on a trunk. No one was around.
Yep.
And I just happened to be walking by. And it just went to, thank you again so much. That was great, by the way. And then he was just kind of like, oh, that's great, and thank you again, and left. That was that. There's a lot of times like that, and then there's times like there will, times where you do have conversations. I'll tell you, this has got to be probably the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I always forget about this story. I don't know how I forgot.
It's an exclusive. All right.
So I'm with Shane Alden, who's like one of my great wrestling friends, who we'll get into later when I talk about who got me back into wrestling. And so Shane Alden and I are sitting in catering and we're eating dinner, and it was at the Backlash paper in Rhode Island.
Yep.
And there's tables are full. There's nowhere to sit. One empty table. Shane and I sit at this table. We're like, okay, we sit by ourselves. That's fine. And all of a sudden, there's no line for catering anymore. Like everybody's sitting down eating. And here comes Edge. Walks in. And I'm looking and I'm like, he's going to sit with us. He's going to sit with us. And so I'm like, all right. He looks around a little bit and gets his food and stuff, which he brought his own food because he was doing his own meals that were, mailed to him. He gets all the stuff that he travels with. And he comes over to our table and he goes, hey guys, do you mind if I break bread with you guys? And we're like, no, that's fine. He's like, all right, cool. And so he sits down. So now here's Shane, myself, and Edge.
Yep.
And he's like, so I'm kind of like, I don't want this to be awkward.
Right.
There's a part of me that's like, I'm a people person. I like to talk. I like to meet people. I like to, hear their stories, hear mine. And I'm like, I can't just let it sit here in silence. Like, this is just going to be too awkward. And I'd seen Edge's stuff online where he orders these I forget if it's like nutrition. It's like one of the nutrition sites that you can order all your meals and they come and they're already all prepackaged and you can take them to travel and And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to ask him something totally not wrestling related, not anything. And I'm like, are those the meals I see you like online that you're always promoting? Yeah, they are. And he starts telling me about like, it's a bison burger. I got the bison burger today. He's like, they're phenomenal. And he's like telling me all
Oh,
about it.
wow.
And so then Shane kind of jumps in a little bit and we start having this conversation probably for half hour sitting there having lunch, talking about not wrestling,
Yeah, right.
talking about what you and I would talk about if we went to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just put this addition on my house and just going and nothing that was like starstruck of like,
Right.
oh my God, I'm sitting at the edge. It was just three guys sitting at the school cafeteria table talking, and then he got up and he said, I just want to thank you guys, for letting me sit with you guys and thanks a lot. And,
Wow.
I'll see you guys later. And so he walks away, right? And Shane looks at me and he goes, do you realize that there's people who would have paid like $500 to do what we just did? Because Eddie just came back. So this was
That's
somebody
even
who
more. Yeah, right.
even right. And so yeah, that was one of those things that was really cool, like to be able to sit back and think. And sometimes those are those stories that I don't think about
You know,
until I have.
I was ready for you to go. It looks good, but you really need some of Brock's meat tenderizer on it. Just to.
I hadn't worked with Brock yet, so
Oh,
that
okay.
was
Okay.
that was.
So that
So I didn't know.
next
I
time
don't
you
think I
see
bought.
Edge, you go, they're good, but you just got to add that. No, I
But
love
there's
it.
also, there's also like type of things that I really sometimes I forget about. Um,
Sure.
the past 2 years, I've been like just so grateful for these opportunities that I've gotten to do, and it's like I finally I did a seminar with Gabe for promos, and I
Not
was
everybody
talking.
knows who Gabe is. Gabe is.
Gabe Sapolsky for WWE
Mhm.
Talent Relations,
Yep.
and so I did this seminar with Gabe, and it was on promos, and like I cut this promo, and he just was blown away. He thought it was great, and he's like, so it kind of was like the point of I wasn't saying my age, but I was kind of giving people an idea that I was older, And so I said to Gabe, I was like, well, I just kind of don't like to say my age at the promo, because like he's like, why? He's like, I'm not going to mistake you for a 22-year-old. He's like, you're a man. He's like, I'm not going to mistake you for a 22. I said, well, I know that. So it was kind of that part where I kind of got more comfortable with like
Yep.
being like, you know, so I'll be 43 next Saturday, and it's like, Gabe even said to me in that seminar, he goes, the thing is he's like, when you say that, he's like, I can see all the years of, being told no and pain and frustration and aggravation and all that on your face and that emotion. I could see it in your face and I can see it in your eyes. He's like, so that he's like is something that you really can't teach, like because you're standing there doing this promo and everybody else in that room is under 25. So they don't know all that yet. They haven't gotten to that yet. And so to be able to do that and have him like kind of, so now I kind of like promote it. I'm like, hey, I'm 43 next week, I'll be 43, and like people are just like, you don't look
No,
it,
you don't.
they're like, most people will say like, I thought you were like 35, 36. And so I'm like, well, that's great, and I was like, so it took me a long time to get to where I'm at. um
So he saw that in you and saw the, I don't want to say years of experience, but the years, well, you said of being told no. And
right.
so I take it that it hasn't always been easy and that WWE or whoever's isn't always calling and saying, oh, hey, man, we got this. And it's been a easy path all the way. I take it you've been through a few challenges.
Yeah, the WWE wasn't calling for the first 16 years. So, your goal when you're younger is to be there at that level. And as each year passes, you keep saying like, oh, well, maybe there's next year. I'm still 26, still 28, still 30, still 32, still 36. I'm getting to be 38. Like you get that. It starts to become like, but you can't. You have to still believe in it because if you stop, then you're never going to get there. You know, that's the one sure way that you won't, be successful is if you quit. So, I mean, I took my fair share of time off where I was like, okay, I'm, through with wrestling and, I'm going to do this now. Um, but at the same time, like now when I look back at it, I know you like this because I said it when we were talking on the phone. It's that one small decision that can change the course of everything. You know, um, I think I put it to you, and that one was, you know, when I wake up early, my day's better. Small decision, big outcome.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I have it written down. I had to write it down. But it's really that thing is that small decision is a big outcome.
You have the dream, desire, and talent. Everyone knows you have the work ethic. You have the best gyms, personal trainers, and workout programs. But what about overcoming the challenges, setbacks, or hindrances that are a risk to your incredible potential? I can help with that. Visit DeanPageLifeCoach.com. I help clients get perspective, reach their goals, and change their world. Maybe you could be next.